what would you think about revisiting Roseanne? Yes, I'm in.
I no longer attempt to stab
people when I'm angry with them. We answer all the questions people have asked me for 20 years.
I wanted to see what the Connors were up to in 2018.
I couldn't believe we were sitting there reading these characters in front of the set.
It was the absolute first thing I'd ever done. 29 years ago, you're talking about.
Lori said something to me like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, well, if Lori doesn't know what she's doing, then...
It's a mess. Roseanne hates the script. The writer hates Roseanne.
I wanted total control.
Her name is on the freaking thing.
The show was tapping into something that other shows weren't.
Some of the fun stuff was Dan and Roseanne and Jackie getting high. It still cracks me up every time I see it.
All right, listen up, everybody. I got an important announcement to make.
You're a woman trapped in a man's body.
Sharon Stone.
Toby Maguire, Leo DiCaprio was on. He was a doll. Am I allowed to say that?
I hope you don't show that clip.
It feels like such a time warp.
Like being home again.
Roseanne, The Return. Here's our host, Joy Behar.
Hello, everybody. It was a sitcom originally called Life and Stuff, and that's exactly what America saw. Everyday family life, headed by a mother unlike anything TV had ever seen. A brassy comic taking on the hottest topics in the funniest way imaginable. Hey, sounds familiar. Now she's back with the rest of the Connor crew, and no doubt the new Roseanne will be as groundbreaking and funny as ever.
I'm on my way to the set of the Roseanne show for the Roseanne show reboot. It's been 20 years. I'm so happy to see you. It's pretty amazing. It's very exciting, but it's very emotionally overwhelming. Am I ready yet?
It's September 2017. And it's a family reunion.
Great.
Baloney.
Roseanne and the rest of her castmates are gathering to read through the script.
The name of the #1 script, 20 Years to Life.
Not bad for a one-time struggling comic who parlayed her unique take on family life into a life-changing appearance on The Tonight Show.
She's a housewife from Denver, Colorado.
Oh my God, I was anything but relaxed.
Being funny on The Tonight Show made your career if you were a comic. Getting on The Tonight Show was the thing that every comic in Los Angeles was desperate to do.
And this is her very first appearance on national television. Would you welcome Roseanne Barr? Roseanne?
I thought I was going to fall over. I'm obsessive, so I must have done that 7-minute act like 150 times.
I hate that word, housewife. I prefer to be called domestic goddess.
It's very hard to understand how one spot on one show could make or break your career as a comedian. The Tonight Show was that spot.
The Carson spot leads to more work and more national exposure.
What does it take to become successful, and how tough is it for you compared to men?
I think it's hard to be a man comic, actually, yeah, because they're generally not funny or intelligent.
Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner meet up with Roseanne, and they get talking about the possibility of doing a sitcom that would focus on a character like the one Roseanne talked about in her stand-up.
It started with an idea about how interesting it would be to portray a family in which the mom was a working mom.
I was inexperienced as far as acting, but I was a big fan of sitcoms all my life, and I always pretended that I had the Roseanne show.
Marcy and I were developing this idea, and we said, well, you know what, this may be a hard sell, actually. Even though we had The Cosby Show on television, which was the #1 show, NBC passed on it, and then we brought it to ABC.
So they cast it, and the first thing they do is they get John Goodman. And they need to get people who are really good because Roseanne has no acting experience.
All I knew about Roseanne Barr that she was a rising comedian, and she was on a Pizza Hut commercial. That's the only time I'd ever seen her.
How about if we take the kids out for pan pizza and you can eat it in a salad bar?
We hit it off from the very beginning. We kind of made each other laugh, and that's why I felt like I had the job as soon as I left the audition.
We go broke trying to pay him. We end up in a poor heart. Hard.
Nobody anybody else would ever consider.
We kind of bonded around making each other laugh, and he has a working class background too, so I knew he was the guy, and as soon as I read with him, I knew we had a hit show.
Feel this, baby. There's a 200-point game pulsating through these fingers.
Let's not waste it on bowling. And then the next person they brought in was Laurie Metcalf to play the sister.
I had a real heavy theater background, zero TV, and I allowed myself 2 weeks to be in LA. And during those 2 weeks, I happened to go on the Roseanne audition. So I was literally in the right place at the right time.
Lori was their tow truck driver. She'd nudge her into the marks and then let her go.
You know, it sort of steer her this way. Yeah, I guess I was that. Sort of push here, push there.
Then meeting the kids, we auditioned a lot of kids.
I was eating Chinese food with my family, and I opened a fortune cookie, and it said, "You will be graced with the presence of stardom." And then the phone rang, and it was a callback for Roseanne.
Come on, just answer my question.
It's none of your business.
It is my business when you start sneaking out of this house to meet some guy that I would consider leaving your father for.
I'd never been in an audition process before other than like for the school plays.
Michael came in, he was 6. He looked like my family. And he sits down, he goes, "Want to hear a joke?" So I'm like, "Yeah."
So I asked her, why did the turtle cross the road?
I go, "I don't know."
And the punchline was chickens day off.
Chickens day off. I go, "You're hired."
Mom, I finished folding the laundry.
Thank you, honey. You're one of my 3 favorite kids.
What about me?
No.
It was the absolute first thing I had ever done. It was a life changer.
When I met the entire cast, I think we went to a Howard Johnson to have our first table read, and seeing the family trickle in was just so exciting.
She started it.
Okay, we know who started it. Now,
It was the first time I got this feeling, even though I was young, I just felt like, oh, we have something big here.
They certainly did have something big here. A cast member who would later go on to become Academy Award winner, George Clooney.
We used to play basketball together. You know, he's that cute and charming and someone you want to pal around with in real life.
George Clooney was, just the manager at a factory on a show and was a small character. Then we all felt like he was magical and he was a great guy.
All right, listen up, everybody. I got an important announcement to make.
You're a woman trapped in a man's body?
On set, the cast finds chemistry and comedy, but behind the scenes there is drama, lots of it. The show that will soon return for its 10th season was once in real danger of never making it through the first.
They knew they had something really special here, but they also had somebody who wasn't used to the rules of television and who was not going to be easy to work with.
My feet hurt and I got periodic bouts of depression, but other than that, I'm fine.
I don't know if she told you this, but we were editing the pilot, and Roseanne called me up, and I was just checking with her, and I was saying how great the show was, and she's saying, "I'm not sure I want to do any more episodes." And I said, "What?"
Big trouble. The network wants to pull the plug. Roseanne hates the script. The writer hates Roseanne. It's a mess.
And that will begin a high-stakes battle between two very powerful people on this show. Roseanne Barr, its star, Matt Williams, its creator and executive producer, that will never be resolved.
We had big fights.
Oh, yeah. We all were aware of that. Yeah. I mean, we were right there.
Roseanne wanted him out. Roseanne wanted control of the ship creatively. The tension was, unbelievable.
I remember he threw over a table and chairs and said, "I'm not a scribe."
She was promised a show to voice her point of view, and what was on the page at that point was really not that.
The show premieres in October of 1988. As the cast watches the pilot, Roseanne notices something is missing.
Because that is the first time that Roseanne Barr sees the credit created by Matt Williams. She believes that she is the creator of Roseanne.
Roseanne had it tougher because as a woman coming into it, especially in those days, she really had to fight for the power.
You were in the first year of Roseanne. It was a big hit.
Yeah.
You played what, her boss?
Yes, the first season, she wanted it to be a specific way. Matt Williams did not. And there was a big fight, and she eventually asked Matt to leave. Now, Matt's a nice guy and very talented. Roseanne was right.
And so, that is the question. Is the show actually going to proceed without Roseanne.
People told me that he was keeping a list of all the offensive things I did so that they could replace me. And, you know, it included belching and things like that.
In the end, Williams decides to leave the show over creative differences.
Matt Williams goes on to create Home Improvement with Tim Allen, which is hugely successful.
I knew I would have the last word, and I always did.
Well, she's around and Matt's not. There you have it.
When we come back, what?
You're fired.
From Hot Button Topics on set.
Our school's having a food drive for poor people. Well, tell them to drive some of that food over here.
To getting really steamed offset.
I made the sign that I put on my door. These are the people that will be fired when the show goes to number 1. 1 year later, they were all gone.
She was the queen of ABC. She was the queen of television.
In no time at all, Roseanne has become a smash hit. It's the number 1 show in the country, reaching a staggering 30 million viewers. And Roseanne has creative control.
When the show hits number 1, head of ABC Entertainment, he sends a chocolate cake to the show.
They gave me a chocolate number 1.
Well, Roseanne has heard that when guys have number 1 shows, they don't get cakes. They get like Maseratis. They get like Ferraris.
And they gave me a chocolate number 1. Excuse me.
She feels it's disparaging.
But once Bob Iger got on ABC, boy, they started upping the gifts, I tell you.
You're written like I written.
I gotta go work.
The question about Roseanne was always, was she representing a new kind of person? Was she this newly empowered woman who was taking on the old guard? Or was she just like a tyrant like anybody else was, firing men and women?
I made the sign that I put on my door. These are the people that will be fired when the show goes to number 1. And 1 year later, they were all gone.
When I took the job, my agent and my lawyer said, she will fire you. She fires everyone after a year. And I said, okay. But they said it's going to be a hell of a year. She fired me.
If you're working for Roseanne, she's not going to settle for much at all. And rightly so. Her name's on it, and it's her story. It's her real life.
Being Roseanne, it was not the calmest of places, so you had to kind of be ready on your feet. We were often changing stories, last minute.
Sometimes it was, hey, I met
Joan Collins.
I met Joan Collins at a party, and I went Joan Collins to play my cousin, so write her into the episode this week.
It's a nice outfit.
Thank you. It's a nice place.
It was a little crazy.
Oh, hi, Arnie.
Hey, Rosie, where's the man of the house?
Tom Arnold is put in the writer's room, and Tom Arnold is there to make sure that Roseanne's wishes are followed.
Tom Arnold will enjoy many titles on the sitcom: actor, writer, producer, and perhaps most importantly, Roseanne's real-life husband. It makes things tricky on the set.
Roseanne taking up with Tom Arnold was a huge story. And all this is turning up in People magazine and all that stuff. It's all a big topic of conversation.
You're such a leech. There's always some drama going on every week that I was there. Wow!
Roseanne really did change things in TV.
Oh, no, not June Cleaver.
She wasn't your typical housewife.
Oh, let me do it. It's easier.
She wasn't your typical actress with this voice that could be very piercing and grating.
DJ! Becky! Dan! Come here!
And just that really blue-collar, working-class person.
Us regular people, we're paying more taxes than the rich people because they got all the lawyers to figure out the loopholes. I want to find loopholes.
To represent the working class as the noble class in this country, that just hasn't been the point of view.
Roseanne was the first woman I saw on television that was rejecting the social construct of what femininity was supposed to be.
I always wanted to do a show that was complimentary to the viewers, who I felt were, me when I was a little girl watching TV.
Give me this damn thing. Make it about something that I can identify with, and she certainly did that.
In my culture, it was always a strong mother-based home with a loving husband and some problems and loudmouth kids, so I wanted that.
Come on, Mom!
And of course they face money issues.
Our school's having a food drive for poor people. We'll tell them to drive some of that food over here. It was a show where you could see people paying bills or the lights being turned out because we weren't able to pay all our bills, or the games Roseanne would play, how to shuffle around the bills.
First we send in the phone bill and we forget to sign the check.
There you go.
Then we send the water bill to the electric company, electric bill to the water company.
Now you're
And
cooking.
you know that charge card bill, it never even showed up.
That's what Roseanne did over and over again. She just constantly reinforced this idea that there were struggles to be had.
What?
You're fired.
You don't have to have sex just to have a boyfriend. I know. Look what I found in David's room when I was cleaning today.
Oh man, that looks like hot. Set up as a comedy, everybody's loving it for season and everybody's relating to it, and now she starts introducing issues.
Dad, I'm real sorry that you died before I got to tell you some stuff.
The birth control stuff, it's time for me to get some birth control.
I think the episode where DJ doesn't want to kiss the girl in the play is kind of pivotal American television.
I just don't want to kiss her. Hey, black people are just like us. They're every bit as good as us, and any people who don't think so is just a bunch of banjo-picking, cousin-dating, barefoot embarrassments to respectable white trash like us.
We dealt with domestic abuse with Jackie's character and her boyfriend.
Darling says your back's all bruised up. No, it's nothing. Well, then let me see. No, don't. Come on, I'll just go.
Everyone was terrified of tackling that subject. Was it going to be too dark? Was it going to turn people off to watch that when they're turning in a sitcom?
That son of a bitch. You don't understand. He beat her.
No, he didn't. No big deal.
I came back to her and I said, powers that be are very concerned about this. Don't want to do it. She said, we're doing it. I said, okay, great.
Roseanne was one of the first people in that arena that said, no, this is it. It has to be this good all the time or I'm not going to do it. Don't say anymore.
She was always willing to sacrifice some of the laughs in a sitcom for the depth. And I think people loved her for that reason. I did.
They were in the comedy business. But it did give you an ongoing sense that this show was tapping into something that other shows weren't, and that's what made it special.
Next. She's singing, she's kissing. And we're dishing on the mystery of the two Beckys.
Where the hell have you been? I was surprised that they recast me.
On the show, Roseanne Connor is struggling to make ends meet.
That negative attitude of yours, it's going to get you nowhere.
This is nowhere.
But in real life, Roseanne Barr is on top of the world.
The domestic goddess became a Hollywood diva, the embodiment of white trash with money.
Peek inside her home, and you'll find the softer side of Roseanne, as she showed my friend Barbara Walters.
Her kitchen is bathed in the yellow hue of Monet's house in France. You're acting as if you are the woman who understands all the women while you live in a gorgeous house. I've had
No,
plastic surgery,
I'm the
have a
woman
lot of
who's
money.
been screwed every single way a woman can be screwed and lived through it and survived it and pulled through and triumphed.
Triumph, she says.
All the power jobs are taken. Margaret's running England. Van is turning the letters over.
Because while she's the star of a sitcom, her personal life with then-husband Tom Arnold is a soap opera.
Her life outside of the show, it did spiral and spiral.
Yet they would never expect the fallout from Roseanne singing the national anthem at a baseball game.
I was the general partner of the San Diego Padres at the time, and we were doing a night actually celebrating working women. And the best thing I can say is I thought it was a good idea at the time. I hope you don't show that clip.
Roseanne gets out there to sing the national anthem, and she does not do what we would call a mellifluous version. And she spits and she grabs her crotch, like a player would, like adjusting their jock strap and spitting, and that's kind of her whole gag after it. And people are aghast.
By the time she walked out of that stadium,
She was lucky, as someone said, to be alive. People hated her. The President of the United States criticized her.
President Bush today called the comedian Roseanne Barr's performance on Wednesday night disgraceful.
That's the way I feel about it, and I think a lot of the San Diego fans said the same thing.
So I got out there and I sang about 4 notes, and then, I thought it was okay in the beginning, and then everybody started booing me, and it really went to this panic thing, and, I sang the Star Spangled Banner as best as I could under the circumstances.
My whole life was lived out with the tabloids. Everything that's ever occurred, you get the phone call. She's always told everybody to be brave, and she really embodies it.
It's a pitfall of being, celebrated and then them wanting to tear you down in the same moment. And she was an easy target, because she's so outspoken.
It's just a beautiful morning today. It just makes me want to sing.
Ultimately, Roseanne did what she does best, turn strife into satire.
That woman is like on every cover of every one of these papers. Oh, check it out. She put a voodoo curse on her ex-husband.
She's a damn good singer, though.
The series was so huge that Roseanne broke many of the sitcom rules, like having multiple people play the same character.
Quiet, you! I'm Lacey Goranson, and I play Becky on Roseanne.
Wow, you look incredible.
Really?
Yes. Get in the kitchen.
The Becky. Not the one and only, but kind of. You're right. We're going on vacation?
Ladies and gentlemen, the role of Becky, originally played by Lacey Goranson, then by Sarah Chalk, then by Lacey Goranson, will be played this evening by Sarah Chalk.
I'm Sarah Chalk, and I was Becky 2/4.
God, I hate this family.
We had Lacey Goranson playing Becky, and then when she left for school, Sarah Chalk played Becky, and then
I came in for a couple of years, and then she came back, and then I came back. Where in the hell have you been? Where the hell have you been?
Why does everyone keep saying that to me?
Seems like you've been gone for 3 years.
It was the kind of thing you'd see in a high school play, where you triple cast the lead in Once Upon a Mattress so everybody gets a chance.
Disney World? I've always wanted to go there.
Aren't you glad that you're here this week?
They had us all watching an episode of Bewitched at the end, and Roseanne says,
I cannot believe that they replaced that Darren.
and Lori says,
Well, it was a hit show. They knew they could get away with anything.
and then I say,
Well, I like the second Darren much better.
so they always found ways to, wink at the audience, and not shy away from the fact of what we were doing.
Come here, I got it. Where are you? Come here.
That's a staple of Roseanne's show. Silly inside jokes.
Yeah.
But what eluded Roseanne for so long was acceptance by her peers in Hollywood.
Yeah, he got nominated. There you go. He got nominated for an Emmy. He got an Emmy nomination.
That moment finally came when she and co-stars John Goodman and Laurie Metcalf are all nominated for Emmys.
The Emmy goes to Laurie Metcalf.
I had received an Emmy. She presented it, and I really quickly in my mind I thought, is my name really on that card, or is she just saying it? Because I wouldn't have put it past her.
I had to make sure it really.
Metcalf wins, but the others don't. And soon, art imitates life on the set of Roseanne.
I was sitting there polishing my Emmy, in the living room on the set, and she and John were trying to steal it away from me.
Give me that. No. Come on, I want it. No. Give me it. No. 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 Get it. Get it. Get it. Get it. Come on.
Roseanne would finally get her statue the following year. Next, as the parade of famous faces marches on through,
I'm the only one here, and the sign says Dr. Whitman, so that's me.
the cast comes to face the end.
This has been a DJ Connor film. The show ended and I was devastated.
When Roseanne returns, literally.
We continue now with more of Roseanne, The Return.
Through 9 seasons seasons of award-winning television, The Roseanne Show welcomed so many guest stars and future stars along the way.
I'm the only one here, and the sign says Dr. Whitman, so that's me.
George Clooney.
Oh my gosh, I remember George Clooney came on early in his career.
You know, I haven't played in a long time, but I used to be a high scorer.
We're talking about bowling, Booker.
That too.
Who wouldn't like to kiss Johnny Galecki? Johnny and I have such a special connection, and when we get to work together, it's just an added bonus.
I'm sorry, am I being too loud?
No, you're being perfect and you know it.
Johnny Galecki, my God, he's got so much money. I can't believe I'm angry for his success. No, I'm very happy for him. He's great.
I tried an accent once, but it didn't work for me. People kept asking if I was wearing a retainer.
Sandra Bernhardt, who is so funny.
I specifically told Arnie to be here at 9:30.
All these years later, people will comment on, what I was wearing and love the outfits and just Nancy's outrageousness. And it is really a big part of the lexicon of my career.
James Pickens, he's unbelievably talented, but we knew that, decades ago.
Even before I got the Grey's Anatomy gig, I would get folks going, I remember you from Roseanne. You were Chuck.
You're a wild man, Marvin.
They even brought on Bob Hope one time for a cameo. The audience just went up.
We get so used to seeing great people that it just becomes an everyday thing. Sometimes you have to step back from it for a while and look around and go, wow, I get to work with some of the best who've ever done it.
Martin Mull and Fred Willard, who are just incredible together. Sharon Stone.
My friend Toby Maguire was on the show. Leo DiCaprio was on.
Leonardo DiCaprio was Darlene's friend. He was a doll, too. He was real sweet. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
DJ, don't forget to come to my party on Friday.
There's another one of those really talented people who, he goes to Third Rock from the Sun, and then obviously his career has really blossomed.
But the legacy of the show wasn't just in front of the camera. There was sitcom magic behind the scenes.
We were writers on Roseanne, and we're the creators of The Middle.
Are you over 50?
Yes.
Do you feel overwhelmed with clutter?
We love the writing of Roseanne so much, and we said if we could bring that kind of authenticity, dealing with, having that heart, and yet having the comedy, all those are things that we brought from Roseanne into the
Yeah, not being afraid to write some serious situations with characters who don't have a choice always to quit their job, or, if their credit card bill comes, it actually is a real problem for them.
The Middle is definitely rooted in Roseanne.
The Roseanne Show became the roots of a comedy writing family tree.
We had so many big writers that have created incredible shows. Helene Heisler went on, they've created The Middle. Amy Sherman Palladino,
who obviously went on to create Gilmore Girls.
Danny Jacobson.
Bruce Halford,
who went on to create many things.
and
Drew Carey.
Chuck Lorre.
Dang, there's just a lot of them.
It was a great training ground, and everybody knew if you survived Roseanne, you must be pretty good.
We owe a debt to our time at Roseanne.
And we have an Afghan on our couch, which is an homage to Roseanne.
Absolutely. It's a little nod. Afghan on the couch means home to us.
I think that what Frankie and Roseanne have in common is they're not like June Cleaver as far as their families go. They're not wearing pearls and a dress with an apron. They don't necessarily always have a kind word or an encouraging word for their kids. And not that they're mean, but it's just sort of a realism with your kids that I think a lot of parents relate to. Okay, here's your hat, backpack, lunch. I think what comes through in both shows is the heart and the love.
Just as it opened, so many seasons around the kitchen table, Roseanne's last episode in 1997 included a final gathering of the extended Connor family.
The dining table is sort of like the hallmark of where everybody gathers for all important events. And I think that she used, the kitchen and the table as the linchpin of all those stories. So it made sense that you would resolve it all at the table.
The final episode shocked the viewers with revealing Dan's character was actually dead. And the entire last season, where they were rich and won the lottery, it was all just a story Roseanne made up. None of it happened.
My writing is really what got me through the last year after Dan died. I think I'll be a lot better now that this book is done.
The sad ending hit hard for fans and for the cast.
The show ended and I was devastated. Maybe one of the hardest moments of my entire life. If you can picture everybody you know that you literally have built your world around for 9 years, suddenly everybody has to leave.
It was strange to be only, 22 years old, start back at ground zero and have to build my life back up after having early success.
The show ended, but life moved on.
So after the show, I did a bunch of other acting, Seinfeld.
Is there anybody else here but you?
I'm alone. Then, I did a few movies, and I really focused on family. And I met my wife, and I got married. I really wanted my kids to have some kind of normal life, and I wanted to be heavily involved as a dad. And so I went behind the scenes. I worked on the technical side of everything. And then I was a high school coach, mostly baseball and softball. I guess I look at it as I got to chase my dream. And so I kind of always loved to help other people chase theirs.
I had been commuting from Canada, so I moved back there, did my general arts degree. Then when I was 24, I was like, okay, I'm ready. Now I'll go back. And then got lucky and got scrubbed. Next patient. And then ended up staying.
After the show was over, I did a few movies, and I just started to work again and do different projects.
Lisi Goranson finished college and continues to act in film and theater.
You go to sleep.
John Goodman's career includes dozens of blockbusters and independent hits. And Roseanne returned to stand-up, started a farm, and even ran for president. And Laurie Metcalf?
And then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
Well, she's going for Oscar Gold next month. Get ready for the return of Roseanne. Rare home video. Their first date back in the old house.
We continue now with more of Roseanne, The Return.
After 20 years...
Are you ready? Yeah, this is bad enough.
I know. The cast of Roseanne is back to work. This is the first time they see the recreated set.
That first moment when we walked in together, I don't know that you can totally explain it. Do you remember?
This is so, look at that. It was just like walking into your home because it was so familiar.
It was so crazy to walk into the set for the first time. I mean, it feels like such a time warp. Everybody remembers the couch and the Afghan.
Cans of Spam and all the knickknacks and the pictures on the walls and everything. It was startling to walk onto that set again after 20 years.
I don't have the words to describe how it was. It was strange, exhilarating. Wallpaper was reproduced from photographs, and the hair was standing up on my arms, like being home again.
So we had to have our corn, and then we had to find our pickled eggs.
Where are the pickled eggs? Pickled eggs?
Because we always had a big jar of pickled eggs there in the pantry, and that we got on Amazon.
First table read was surreal.
Oh, she's my
Just having everybody sit around the table like we used to and have sets behind us looking almost exactly the same. It was truly incredible.
Everyone was crying and laughing, and the network was excited, which never happens.
Kids laughing, Roseanne curls up next to Dan.
Hey, just because they're up doesn't mean we have to give up, pleasure in me.
Well, time for the full symphony of love, but you can do it for the greatest hits.
It ended up just being more of kind of a magical, Christmas morning.
How did they all get here after 20 years?
There's something I've been wanting to talk to you about for a while now.
It began when John Goodman appeared on Sarah Gilbert's talk show.
What's that, kiddo?
God, I don't know how to say this. I'm a talk show host.
It was just a fluke moment on Sarah's talk show. We did a little Roseanne sketch at the top of the show, and that felt like gold.
Yeah, for a minute there, I thought you were going to tell me you were gay.
It was just like falling out of bed. It was so easy.
Let's save something for halftime.
John, would you ever consider a reboot of Roseanne?
Oh, hell yes.
I just thought, maybe the cast will do this. So I reached out to Roseanne, and she thought about it a little bit, and we started to talk about it, and it just started to feel right.
I got a call from Sarah Gilbert saying, what would you think about revisiting Roseanne? And I said, yes, when, where do we show up? I'm in.
I came with a list of things that I would have to have in order to do it. I have a lot of anxiety, and I don't bear stress well at 65. I can't be at odds with anybody anymore. Too old. And she said, I can do it. And I said, all right, well then do it. And she did. 3 weeks later, we had a deal at ABC.
The Connors' joys and struggles are as relevant and as hilarious today as they were then. And there's really no one better to comment on our modern America than Roseanne.
We're at a point in time in our country where people are divided, where there's a lot of frustration and there's a lot of angst. And there's a lot of economic frustration, and I think the Connors really signify that.
Our last election, the jokes were just writing themselves. I will wake up with jokes in my head, dream jokes. We wanted to show an accurate depiction of America.
And there are new faces in the Connor family portrait.
One of my favorite episodes was when DJ wouldn't kiss the black girl in the school play.
Is it because she's black?
Well, you'll be mad if I say yes.
No, we won't.
Yes, we will.
We wanted to honor a lot of those really powerful storylines. Currently in this season, he married her and they have a child together who's on the show.
They are unlike any other family on television. And again, in this run, like the first run, do not shy away from any topic. I think it's exactly what's needed. And it's so damn funny. I think people need to laugh right now.
You're not seeing double. Both Beckys are also back on screen together for the first time.
It was really fun.
I play Andrea on the show, and I hire Lacey to be my surrogate.
A lot of our old friends are back on set too, but what about everyone's favorite outfit? That chicken shirt?
I don't know the chicken shirt's origin story, other than it's fabulous.
The chicken shirt kind of came about as a joke with wardrobe. They saw it initially and thought it was kind of ugly. Next thing you know, the chicken shirt ends up on the show, and then it kind of grew.
Roseanne was wearing it, then Lori was wearing it. I think I wore it once, but it just got around.
We thought it was so hilarious that it started to become a game of who could wear the chicken shirt, and it rotated on different cast members.
Oh, the chicken shirt's definitely back.
Of course, the chicken shirt and the Afghan, it wouldn't be Roseanne without either of those.
At the end of the day, folks still like to be told great stories. And the Connors, they told great stories. I think it may even be funnier now, just because of the times we live in and what's going on both socially and culturally and politically. And I think this is probably perfect timing to reboot Roseanne.
There's a lot of surprises in for people. I think we answer all the questions people have asked me for 20 years.
Here's a test for you. What's the one thing everybody remembers from Roseanne? We'll find out when we return. Ah, the Afghan on the couch. You know you had one. Well, it wouldn't have been Roseanne without it.
Sam won't get off the couch.
Honey, get off the couch.
I believe the Afghan just showed up on the set. Who knew that it would become iconic? You know, this is the show. This thing right here.
What is it with you? All you do is just lay here on the couch staring at that stupid TV.
Oh, we wanted an Afghan like my grandmother used to make.
Now, come on, Dan. We're missing a chance to give this family a dose of culture.
She'd whip them up in about 2 hours. She was so good at it. Everybody's house in the Midwest had one of those. So it was like part of having some realism in the show.
Great, Mom. Well, thank you.
We've all kind of taken naps on that couch. People have used that Afghan to sleep in while writers were rewriting stuff.
You don't even know what comp material is.
Somebody swiped it. They always give me that when I say, I like to have that Afghan. Oh, it's in the Smithsonian. That's what they always tell me.
We spend a lot of time joking around and playing on it and jumping over it, and the set really for us feels like home.
Roseanne, my dear, thanks for the memories. And we look forward to making new ones with you. You can catch a first look at the new Roseanne during this year's Oscars. And of course, the brand new series starts March 27th right here on ABC. I'm Joy Behar. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you tomorrow on The View. Good night.